Okay, so you're going to start with a chunk of clay. Okay, you have that on your shelves. And I don't care if it's flat, round, just like this. I really don't care what you start sculpting on. I could start right here if I wanted to. In fact, let's just do that. Let's just cut this in half, like that. And we're just going to start right there. Okay, if you wanted to, you could come in and be like, well, the chin goes in a little bit. And if we added some lines up here, pretty soon we're going to have Groot, right? But we're going to go there. Scoot that over here. All right. We're going to start with a mouth. Let's start with a mouth. So I'm not going to go too far into proportions. Mouth, nose, eyes would be here. I'm going to put them up just a little bit. Something like that. The mouth, a very basic idea of how to make a mouth. We're going to take a little chunk of clay, roll it into coil. It's going to be thicker in the middle and thinner on the outside. The top, sorry, this is the top lip. And again, real basic. I'm just going to push down on the top and then bend into a tiny little M. Okay, and it's just gonna go right there. That's a little thick for this face, but it's what's gonna be. So the next one, we're going to take the same sort of coil and it's gonna taper on the sides. And I'm just gonna leave it full and it's gonna go down to the bottom. This guy's not gonna have much of a chin, which is okay. Now, you can score and slip these if you want to. These are just playing around with clay. From here, let's try to make it a little happier. All my others have been a little bit pensive or slightly aggravated looking.
This guy.
This guy's not too bad, but I also did drop something on its face. So I threw another piece down on it. This one's, I guess that one's fairly happy.
Yeah, he needs another one.
This one was the third period when he's like, we are so close to the weekend starting, life is good. So I guess you're right. They're not too bad today.
I like that.
That one's good.
All right, that one's scary.
I like the middle one.
Okay, we're going to wrap this around. If you want to put teeth on, put the teeth down, then the lips over the teeth. If you want to put a mustache on, you put the lips on first and then a mustache. And we're just going to come in here and just blend these down. Now, we're not looking for exact proportions. We're just looking for the concept or idea of a mouth. And we're going to push this together. Okay, I'm not going to fuss with it too much. Kind of has a fat lip there. So his girlfriend punched him. I don't know why. It's just the way it works. What's next? A nose. Let's throw a nose on. And a nose is going to start out as a basic triangle kind of teardrop shape. So we're going to come in here and throw that on there. And that's a very basic shape. We could add a little bit to it and refine it as we go. I like to come in here, score and slip that on, kind of push that in like so. Bring this up. Sometimes you add a little ball up at the top. And then if you take something, you can just push in and move it up and out, and that'll help give it some little nostrils. Okay, not bad. If you want, you can accent these things just a little bit. Okay, that's good for now. We can come back in, think big, and move to little. Don't try to finesse one little tiny thing after another. Get it done, then come back in and work into the details as we go. Okay, interesting enough, just by putting those slits in there, we can already tell there's eyes, right? So you could leave it like that. You can do any number of things. I'm gonna come in here and just push down and pull out, like so. And we're going to take this clay and create the eyeball. I just make a circle. That's pretty good. You can't see that in the camera. And then I'm going to cut it in half. Again, this is a quick version of how to sculpt a face. As we get further down the road this semester, I'll cover things more intently, where we'll talk about proportion, we'll talk about measuring, and some other things like that. A couple of years ago, I spent a week down at Snow College working with this guy. He's the professor of art down there, and he is a sculptor, and he sculpts really well, and we spent a week hanging out, learning to sculpt. And when you get a second, there's a sculpture straight over there. That's what that week ended up being. Okay, we're gonna come next. We're gonna throw out or slam down some clay. So if we were doing this from a very specific way and wanting to know anatomy, we would talk about bone structure, and we'd talk about fat pads and muscle and things like that, and then we would talk about skin on top of that. We're not going to talk about that too much because we're just going to kind of go for it. We will talk a little bit more about that later. So I'm going to grab 2 little half moons or orange slices, and then I'm going to turn them into some fortune cookies. Okay, something like that. Sharpen that up just a little bit. It's just going to lay on the eye. I'm going to start to blend that in, and it's going to blend down. And we'll do the other side. If this guy was looking down, I would have put the pupils in already. So it's looking down. Get that worked in. You might want to grab a tool, some sort of a wood knife or whatever. A lot of times I get it in there and then I'll come back in and remove a little bit. Okay, I am going to put the pieces in. He's going to be looking up. So we're just going to run that in. There's a whole bunch of ways to put in and make your eyes whatever they're going to be. That'll make him look happier. All right, this one, I'm going to do the same thing as before, just a little taller, because it's going to go up and create both the fold of my upper lid and it's going to create part of my brow. So we're going to go here, thin that out. You don't want it to be really thick, like that. Okay, and before I blend it in, I'm going to add the crease where my brow and my lid are. And you can use any number of tools. You can use your wood knife. Sometimes I just use something that's curved, and I'll come in here and just add that line. And then come in here. So there's the line, and then I'll just come in here and kind of push that in. A lot of what we'll do as we move forward is we'll get it to a certain spot, let it get leather hard, and then you can come in and shave it back just a little bit. So we get the big things going, maybe start to refine it a little bit, but then we'll come back in and refine it with carving tools and little paintbrushes and things like that. So we've got our face there. Now, I very rarely sculpt ears. Ears are probably the hardest part of a face, at least for me. There's ears on that one, and they took me a while. And if you look at one side versus the other, you can see where I gave up, because one looks good and the other one looks, that's all right. But if you're going to do ears, and you can and you should at least try, I would recommend starting like this. Take your ear shape on your paper, grab a medium thick piece of clay, and just sculpt it into that shape so it's nearly identical. We'll talk about the form of an ear later. And then you'll come in here, there's these little curves, they push in and up and come down through there. This opens up there, and then the ear canal, again, they're actually fairly complex. So we've got a basic ear right there. On a flat piece, it's gonna look kind of funny sitting there. On our mugs, they might look a little funny, but you can still put them on. It just depends on what it is. What we don't want them to do is be stuck way out, because they're more likely to break.
Unless they're super thick, that way they can be
You could bake them super thick.
be a weird hair.
So we got some basic ears happening there. Okay? Now, today, in the last 20 minutes, I want you to grab your clay and I want you to play around with it with these features, so that you can apply them when we get to our mug. I want you to save your project so that you can clean it up later or add things to it and try things out as you are getting ready to move on your mugs. Any questions? Anyone not have clay? Okay. You weren't here last time.